First of all, Serena and Alison, thank you for joining us. It's really great to have you here. Serena, you have been investing in early stage companies for 9 years now, but this new fund takes it to the next level. You say you want to invest in the next generation of champions. Who and where do you think those champions are?
So I have been investing for 9 years now, and then I've been actually working on this particular chapter of my life for the past 4 years, and just really building my track record here. So I feel like us at Serena Ventures, we don't check just one box. We really are looking forward to health and wellness, femtech as well as fintech. Obviously, the crypto space and the Web3 space and NFTs are something that is on everyone's mind. And I don't think you can really have a VC firm and not have some really big part of that into big part of your fund into that part of the Web3 space. So we're kind of like looking in those particular areas.
Now, you've been the greatest of all time in tennis for so long, but in venture capital, you've kind of been in stealth mode or under the radar. And a lot of celebrities and athletes don't necessarily get taken seriously here unless they're investing directly in their craft. Is there something motivating or energizing about trying to prove yourself at something new?
Yes. And honestly, that's one of the reasons I have been investing so long and I have been in stealth mode for so long, because I feel like, whether it's an entertainer or it's an athlete, when we try to do something different, it's seen as more of an opportunity instead of a passion. This is actually a passion of mine. I wake up every morning thinking, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to open my computer and look at decks or just talk to the company or just see what we're going to do today. And it's something that I'm super passionate about. And I just genuinely have so much fun with it. But yeah, that's also another reason why I was operating in stealth. I really wanted to build my portfolio. I wanted to build my track record. So when people had questions, I would say, we can just go to our track record or go to our data room and kind of see what we've done in the past. And it gives you a glimpse of when we do have bigger fund and being able to write those big checks, what we'll actually do in the future.
Now, Alison, there's a lot of money flowing into the venture capital ecosystem, a lot of competitors out there, and VCs often claim they have a unique network. Your network with Serena's would seem to be unparalleled. How does that come to life on behalf of your startups? Are there any examples you can share?
Yeah, one of the great things we're able to do is leverage the network that Serena's built for the 20 plus years in her career for behind the scenes connections. Obviously, Serena has lots of followers, and being on Instagram or something like that is great. But when we can connect someone to the head of ESG at Nike, or we can kind of connect someone to someone at Amazon or Procter & Gamble, those are people that she's been partnered with for a really long time, but are either business development opportunities, potential acquirers, or a lot of them are investing themselves in startups in the space. So we've been doing a lot of work with that, as well as just Serena's own companies. So we just invested in a company called Calico, which is helping manufacturing become clear, more transparent in the apparel space, and they're working with Serena's own brand. So lots of things like that. There's lots of places of connectivity through the Serena universe, as well as kind of the partners that she's built over the last 20 plus years.
Now, Serena, in sports, you know immediately if you win or lose. In venture, it takes years of, some of them money-losing investments. How do you think about that feedback loop, the fact that this is years over time?
Money-winning investments. We really try to have ourselves do the best and have our most calculated risk, right? I mean, that's the best thing that you can do in ventures, just try to kind of just do as much research, do as much due diligence as possible to make sure that our risks are less. So that's kind of what we focus on. And, I was actually having this conversation last night. It's you invest in a fund and you have to wait 5 years sometimes to see the turnaround. It's so interesting. Sometimes in this other space, companies in Web3 and crypto and the NFT space, some of these companies are taking turnarounds in 1 or 2 years. And this is really unprecedented. It's something that we as VCs haven't really seen, and it's new and everyone's excited about it. But typically, you really have to wait a few years before you see that return. And patience is the key here. You have to go for the long haul, really.
You said yourself, Serena, you don't like to lose. What do you take from the court to investing?
So that's a good question. It's really about having a winning attitude and really just about understanding that you have to put a lot of time into this, and you have to put a lot of effort into learning. And for me, I'm the kind of person that I like to really do my homework and really do my due diligence and really just kind of figure out exactly so I can be the best at it because I know what that takes. I know what it takes to be the best at something in the world. So I'm bringing that to the table, and not many people have that. But at the same time, understand that the hard work and the dedication, and then also that champion's mentality of like, I like winning. So if you do, what does it take to win? And it's really just figuring that out and applying it into this part of my life.
Alison, speaking of the track record, Serena Ventures has backed 13 unicorns, 6 exits to date. What is the advice you're giving to founders right now about the macroeconomic environment, given what we're seeing with inflation and interest rates and geopolitical uncertainty?
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of risk right now in the world when you think about what that means. But we've also seen in times of kind of great economic distress, some of the best companies coming out of that. People are looking at new opportunities, whether they wanted to or not. Also, with interest rates going up, we have, debt's going to start getting more expensive. So there's more opportunity for different forms of financing. And when we're doing it early stage, it's still the same course. It's make sure you have enough capital to get you to your next stage. How can we help you? What are the things that you need to build to get to that next level? And what are the tools that you need? So for us, it's kind of business as usual because there's a lot of opportunity happening right now, a lot of great companies that we are seeing and funding, but also thinking about kind of making sure you have a little bit saved away for a rainy day because no one knows what's around the corner.
Serena, the New York Times ran a story about your fund and mistakenly printed a photo of your sister instead of you. You tweeted about this saying, no matter how far we come, we get reminded that it's not enough. This is why I raised $111 million for Serena Ventures to support the founders who are overlooked by ingrained systems, woefully unaware of their biases, because even I am overlooked. How did you process that mistake?
Honestly, I've been through a lot in my career and in my life, and I don't let one thing tick me off too much. For me, I process it as an opportunity to use it to let other people know that you're not the only one being overlooked, and let people know this is why I'm raising Serena Ventures. This is why I want to make an impact, because we need people like me and people like Alison and like our team at Serena Ventures to be writing the big checks, to change that narrative so we don't have to be overlooked and just thought on and just say, okay, let me just let me just post this as fast as I can. I'm not even going to think about it because it doesn't really matter to me. And so it's really about changing that narrative. And it's I think that's so important, because if you have a platform to talk about it and to discuss it, then it needs to be discussed. And I think it's important for other women and other people of color to see that you're not the only one struggling. I mean, I've been number one for, I don't know, eons, and I've won more Grand Slams than I could even find. And the fact that can still happen is just and the truth that this is why we have Serena Ventures.
So let's talk about underappreciation and being overlooked. What's an area of investment? This is sort of a quick rapid fire section, if you will. What's an area of investment that you think is underappreciated and underhyped, Serena?
Well, for me, I think femtech is something that we really try to look at and just really research in a better way to help women in general. And we are really focused on making the everyday lives of everyday people better. And it's really about, focusing on that wealth gap that is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We want to really help those everyday people figure out how we can have our mission kind of guide that approach.
And what's something that's overhyped? And Alison, feel free to weigh in.
Ooh, underhyped. I'd agree on femtech, specifically like menopause and aging. I think that's something that isn't necessarily sexy or cool, but a lot of people are going through it, and there's not a lot that's been innovated in the space, whether it's on the mobility front or menopause. There's just a lot in kind of aging in general. I think that we can do that'd be really exciting. Things that are overhyped. I I think that it's not overhyped. There's a lot of noise in Web3 and crypto and NFTs. So it's really about kind of breaking through that noise, understanding the protocols, what they're really building and how they're differentiating. And so I think some of them are overhyped and there's a lot of opportunity at the same time. So that's an area that we are spending a lot of time sifting through because there's just so much going on.
Serena, real world or metaverse? What do you think?
Oh my God, that's interesting. I think as an investor, I have to say, oh, that's a toughie. I'm going 50-50. I would say a little metaverse and you have to stick to the real world.
How about Bitcoin, Ethereum, or something else entirely?
I think there is something else on the horizon. There's a few that I know that it's on the horizon. I think Bitcoin has had an amazing boom and it continues to do something amazing and it's huge, right? I'm personally really in love with Ethereum. I think it's just it's more accessible and it's just it's what I prefer. But I love them.
Interesting. Alison, what's it like working with a champion, working with maybe the greatest athlete of all time?
I think she is the greatest athlete of all time. So I'll take the maybe out of that. You know, I used to think I was type A before I met Serena. And then I realized pretty quickly that I think I'm type C because she somehow has more hours in the day than I do. But it's inspiring, kind of that championship mindset that she talked about. She brings that to our team. She always tells me, leaders lead and really empowers us to make the hard decisions, to think about, the ripple effects. And so for me, it's really fun. She's also become a dear friend of mine. So, we're talking about Ethereum one day and what NFTs we're buying. And then I'm telling her I want to borrow the dress she wore this weekend to the award show. So we're having a good time. We enjoy each other. We've really built a really strong partnership after 4 years where we can talk about anything. And, I always think I get smarter from learning from her. I hope she feels the same way about me, but we come from two really different backgrounds. So having that and being able to play off each other, learning from her on the branding and marketing and her ability to kind of see around the corner and the next big trends is where I am more kind of operational in the weeds. It really works out well and makes a beautiful partnership.
Serena, speaking of other great athletes, Tom Brady unretiring. What's your take on that?
I think everyone is happy about it, or most people were. I know I was. So it was definitely mixed feelings about him retiring, and then kind of felt pretty good about the unretirement. I was like, oh, that's exciting. So,
well, like Tom Brady, you've accomplished seemingly everything possible on the court, and you've now started this second career in investing, and you've got other business interests. How much longer are we going to see you playing tennis? And are you thinking about the R word more often?
Right? I mean, I think every tennis player thinks about the R word as soon as they hit 5 years. Because tennis is so intense. It's literally 11 months out of the year. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm living for the day. I always tell people I'm not planning for tomorrow, only in business. And when it comes to tennis, I'm planning just for today.
All right. So what's the Serena Slam for business? What does that look like?
I have never been asked that question. And I've never thought about it. And I think that is such a good idea. Like, what a good way, because I have a Serena Slam in tennis. So what a good idea. I absolutely love that. I'm going to think of something and come back to you on that. I love that. You just challenged me. I love being challenged.
She has
amazing.
Her eyes have
We're going to have to check
You're
back
in
in
trouble.
with
I
you.
got work to do today. You just gave me, I know what I'm doing all afternoon.
Serena, on that note, you have broken so many barriers. You have proved so many people wrong who didn't believe in you or support you. So I have to ask you about what happened to Naomi Osaka at Indian Wells. What's your reaction to this, especially given your own experience?
I thought that, everyone is different. I always say this. I always say everyone is different. It's sport. I know a lot of people in sport, whether it's football, I know in basketball, I mean, shooting a free throw with all the noise and all the angry words and the fans, it's interesting, so it's a part of sport, unfortunately. And you have to be able to, keep going in those times, because it's like, it's not going to, unfortunately, people can be really mean, and that's terrible. And I've been around when people have been really mean, and you just kind of have to understand that that's their opinion, and just it's a free world and they're able to have that opinion. But I think that, for my opinion, it's like, okay, I'm not going to have that meanness win. It's like, okay, how do I do that? And so, unfortunately, I hate that it's a part of sport, but it's part of sport, and it will probably always be a part of sport. And so, but everyone's different.
So what is your advice then for the next generation of women and women of color, whether they are founders or investors or tennis players, about facing this adversity that obviously still exists in the world, and how to overcome?
Yeah, you have to just understand that adversity is always going to be there, and there's always going to be people that aren't very nice. And for me, I think it's because of the way I grew up. I liked when I had adversity; it made me better, and I thrived on that. Or I thrived on hearing people say I would never be good, or I would never win another Grand Slam, when I would never do this. And it made me excited to go out and train. But that's, that was my whole life, was trying to prove people that I was better than that. And that's what I'm doing now in a different way. Like, I love proving that athletes can turn and have an amazing career, whether they're playing tennis or whether, I'm doing investing. And so it's important to me and that kind of motivates me. And so I look forward to doing that with Serena Ventures.
Thank you for sharing that. I got to ask you a last question about Bored Ape, because I know your husband, Alexis Ohanian, gifted you a Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT. Curious where you think that's going and how bullish you are on NFTs, NFT artists in general.
It's interesting. It's been a little over a year, and they now have a $14 billion company. I think it's insane, right? You don't think that this can happen. And I thought 16 months ago that NFTs might be around for a really long time. And I feel like I was absolutely right about that. I think they're not going anywhere. People, as you can see, Bored Ape, they're building communities. They're building so much more. It's so much more than an NFT. It's a company. And people really have to now think outside of the box. You have to think like, okay, how can you create this company, and how does it become different? So they're here to stay, and they're not going anywhere.